People like power. They like perceived power. And you're right. They don't want to give it up once they have it. And that's a shame. People should not be in love with power. They should be in love with the idea that they can use that power to make people's lives better.
The Empire Podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Empire. And yes, we have another great show for you guys today. If you guys didn't know, my name is Connie Leyva. I'm your host. And we have another great guest, Executive Director of KVCR in San Bernardino, also former senator, and so much other great things. And that person's name is Connie Leyva. Welcome to The Empire, Connie.
Thank you, Antonio. Thank you for having me.
So great to have you.
Happy to be here.
Man, happy to have you. I guess we could just keep going in circles.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
How's your day been? How's your year been?
You know, day's been good. Year's been good. I really, truly can't believe that we're almost to May. They say as you get older, time goes by faster. I can say that's absolutely true. But it's been a good year. Good year. Well, good year at work and whatnot, relatively speaking. There's things happening in the world around us with the new administration, I think that is stressful for everyone, but otherwise the year's going good.
Is the administration affecting what's happening in the...
Yeah,
Yes?
absolutely. I think that the new administration is that there's no one that's being left out and not being affected. But for us in public media, we have the threat of our money being cut. PBS and NPR are federally funded, and they have actually, I think they're voting today, the 24th, to cut funding for PBS and NPR.
Do you know what their argument is to cut it?
Yes.
What's their argument?
Well, they say that we are not unbiased, which that's the great thing about public media is we just give you the facts and people get to make up their own mind. But the administration, I don't think they love the facts. And so I think that bothers them that we have people on and people just present the facts and the story goes where the story goes. And so I think that is the reason why they had both of the heads of NPR and PBS to a congressional hearing with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And it was kind of an offensive hearing, but both of the women did an amazing job and just talked about the great work that PBS and NPR do. I mean, imagine cutting children's shows. Most of us grew up on,
Sesame Street.
Sesame Street and Big Bird and Arthur and all of these great shows, and that would be cut. And we'll find a way to survive. KVCR is not going anywhere. The local PBS and NPR station that we are isn't going anywhere, but it'll certainly make our job much harder. We'll have to find more funding. But just the interesting things that the new administration is focusing on.
Is very, in my opinion, it seems like they're saying that them not public broadcast stations is not truthful. It's just like an excuse. It's not that's not a fact that they're saying that.
Yes, Antonio, you're exactly right. It's just an excuse. One of the things when I got hired a little over 2 years ago that I said I really liked is, you can turn on just about any station and find what you want to hear, right? You've got CNN, you've got Fox News, you've got MSNBC. You can really find the station that caters to what you want to hear. Where we are at KVCR, we don't cater to anybody. We just cater to the facts. So you're going to hear what is truthful, and then, like I said before, make up your own mind. So yes, I think that the new administration just doesn't like that we tell the truth.
Yeah, it's so wild. I guess they're just trying to find anything to make budget cuts out of. And
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
No holds barred type of situation.
No holds barred, exactly.
Wow.
Yes.
And I guess if it doesn't affect you personally, then why does it matter?
Yes.
Yeah, such an interesting perspective.
And isn't that, I think that's a sad state of affairs that we are in currently in the United States. I think that people kind of don't think about other people. They don't think about their neighbor. I always like to say, if my neighbor's not doing well, then I'm not doing well. And we forget that we shouldn't wait until it affects us. When we see someone else or something being mistreated or something not being done properly, we should speak out against it and we should fight for it because next person on the chopping block could be you.
That makes so much sense. Ooh, well, what a great start, I think. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you hear so far, please like the video, subscribe, comment, all that good jazz. But for Connie, for people who may not know who you are and the things that you do, Can you please let everybody know who you are and the things that you do?
Absolutely. Connie Leyva, Executive Director at KVCR Public Media. Wonderful place to be. We are the news outlet in the Inland Empire. When I was hired, I was asked to do more programming and focus on the Inland Empire because we aren't LA and we don't want to be LA. They're great, but the Inland Empire is great in its own right. So we are trying to do more programming so that when people listen or tune in, they see and hear people that look like them. So we've started a few new shows on radio. One is IE Latino Voices. The other one is Black Perspectives IE. And those are shows that are highlighting the good work that our Black and Brown communities are doing. On TV, we have Learn With Me, and that is a children's show. The first half is in English. The second half is in Spanish. And we think that is a good thing for our young children. If you're an English-speaking child, learn a little Spanish. If you're a Spanish-speaking child, maybe you learn a little English. A couple years ago, myself and my team, right after I'd been hired, went up to Sacramento to talk about PBS and NPR and how important they are. And it was wonderful to hear from so many elected officials that said, I or my parents learned to speak English watching PBS. So I thought that was really cool. And we want to keep that going here in the Inland Empire. And we're just trying to do more. We have a show called Inland Edition, hosted by Joe Richardson, who's a local civil rights attorney. The first 20 episodes, we interviewed elected officials from all levels because after 8 years in the Senate, I am convinced that people do not know what their elected officials are supposed to do. And then the next 20 episodes on season 2, we highlighted different nonprofits and the good work that they're doing in the Inland Empire. So that's what I do now. I was in the state Senate for 8 years. Loved that. Felt like I got to do a lot of really good work benefiting Inland Empire residents, but also people in the state of California. Prior to that, I spent 30 years in the labor movement representing grocery store workers. And so Albertsons, Ralph's, Vaughn's, Stater Brothers, Food for Less, CVS, Rite Aid, those were all my people. I think I've always wanted to do something where I felt like I could make people's lives better.
And in the grocery stores, you're like trying to help people get like fair wages or something at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
So I started as a union rep. Actually, I started in the benefits department, making sure people knew about their benefits, and then interviewed and became the first woman rep at that local, maybe at other locals too. And the labor movement was very male dominated. And so being a union rep, I got to go out to all these, I had 35 sites that I visited, and I got to go to those workplaces and make sure people knew what their rights were and talk to them about their contract, make sure they're getting paid properly. If they're working overtime, are they getting their overtime? Making sure they knew how good their medical benefits were, and making sure that they were aware that they had a pension. And like I used to tell the young people, I'm like, you don't think you're going to get old, but one day you will. And when you do, you'll still be able to eat because you'll have a pension. So I absolutely loved that. I did that for 8 years and then became the president. Did that for 12 years. And at that time, I was also the president of the California Labor Federation, which represented all the unions in the state of California, about 2.1 million workers, and we were the political arm. So we worked on trying to get people elected to office that cared about the same things we did: good wages, medical benefits, and a pension. So I loved all of that.
It makes me think of two things, when you said like male dominated,
Yes.
probably makes me think like how many of the female workers, like, were they given proper maternity leave and stuff like that?
Yes. So when I became a union rep, my boss at the time said, "Well, don't tell anyone that you're married and that you have children because they won't think you'll be as good at your job." And he also even told me, "Don't hang pictures of your family in your office," which of course I did.
What's the argument for?
He didn't want people to know that I had a family. He thought that it would make me weak and appear weak. And
Because you love...
because I love my children. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And what I told him is I said, "Who do you think we're representing? We're representing a bunch of working moms just like me." I said, "So they'll be able to relate to me. I'll be able to relate to them." And that's what I loved. I loved making sure that, yes, women who were in the grocery industry knew about their medical leave, knew about FMLA, family medical leave, knew about about disability, and then just families in general knew about the benefits that they had. had, so that their children were properly vaccinated and they could go to the doctor free or of little charge. So that was wonderful to get to tell people all of those things. And scheduling, making sure people were properly scheduled. They got the hours they were entitled to. They got their wage increases as they were supposed to. So I loved all of that.
Gotcha. They got their breaks.
They
and
got their
everything.
breaks, absolutely. Oh, that was always a fight, yes.
Do pensions still exist?
They do.
They do.
There aren't as many as there should be.
Okay.
But you either need to have a union job or work for like a state agency or a school district. So there's two different kinds of unions: public sector, private sector. Grocery stores are private sector. That means they're owned by a private entity, a corporation. Public sector is, state entities, your school districts, whatnot, and they still have access to what we call a defined benefit pension, which means when you retire, you get a certain amount. There are other kinds of pensions, a defined contribution where your employer only gives a certain amount, and then you only get a certain amount when you retire. And then there's 401ks, which I am not a fan of because all of the risk lies with the participant. And as we just saw with the craziness in the stock market, people lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if let's say you have $100,000 in your 401k. One bad day could drop you down to $50,000 or $60,000, and that might be what you're supposed to live on for the rest of your life when you retire. So I am always and will always be a fan of a defined benefit pension, where people know for the rest of their life they will receive X amount.
So I just want to clarify.
Yes.
So for a 401k, that money is not untouchable. It can be touched and used based off what the stock market happening in the stock market.
100%. So there are different kinds of 401ks. I'm certainly not an expert, but generally what happens is you work for an employer and they have a 401k set up, and they tell you can contribute X amount of dollars, sometimes tax-free, into your 401k. Sometimes they will provide a match. But that money is invested in the stock market. So when the stock market does well, you might see your 401k jump up. Yay, it's a great day. When the stock market does not do well, you might see, and I say might because it depends on what you're invested in. You might take a huge hit. So I just worry about people, and we don't do a great job in this country of taking care of our elders. And now we're worried that Social Security might be at risk. We know that. Well, I'll just say it, that
Go
the
ahead.
Republican Party has wanted to privatize Social Security for many, many years, but that's our money. Every single one of us who has a job is paying into Social Security. So it's our money. And if we get a vote, our vote is don't touch our money and don't privatize it. And it's a very small amount that people receive when they retire. But if people lose that, people like my parents, they'll be in bad shape. I mean, honestly, we're not going to let anything happen to them, but so many people count on that. So, we need to do a better job of taking care of our elders in this country.
Agreed. And my assumption is, and I think maybe a lot of people also probably assume that 401k was kind of like a savings account.
Yes.
And that it was,
It is.
but I don't think maybe people thought that their savings account can fluctuate. Usually
Yes.
it just kind of keeps building.
Yes.
And so I think now people I'm assuming a lot of people just got educated today on the 401k, right? And you mentioned that the Republicans want to privatize.
Social Security.
What does that mean? Can you elaborate a little bit on
So
what that
that
means?
would make Social Security a for-profit entity. I don't know all the details, but it would mean that instead of us paying in like we do, and anybody can go on to Social Security and look up what they've paid in. Every few years, you should get in the mail something telling you approximately at age 60, 62, 65. Actually, I think it's 65, 70, 72. You retire. And what your amount would look like, your benefit would look like. So you should get something like that. And they send it to you so you can check and make sure that all the years you've worked have actually been recorded. If your employer, things sometimes happen by accident, sometimes by design. So it's always good to look and see. But anybody could look it up. Go on Social Security and look up, you put in your Social Security number, and you can look up and find out what your amount will be when you retire. And you can also check and make sure all of your years that you've worked are included there. So privatizing it would make it a for-profit. So what I worry about, and I could be wrong, but they would be more like a 401k, where they would try to, make more money or less money. There's nothing wrong with Social Security. We could actually make it stronger and give Social Security recipients a higher benefit if we did one thing. Right now, when someone who's making a lot of money, they get to $147,000 a year, they stop contributing to Social Security. That's just the rule.
Okay.
So when you get to, let's say you make,
Wow.
yes. So you've got people making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, and they're not contributing to Social Security anymore. Why not? We should raise that. And just when you work, whatever you're making, it doesn't matter. You just keep contributing into Social Security. That would make it so strong. It would make it you'd have plenty of money in there, it'd be well funded. We could give our seniors a raise. We wouldn't have to worry about anything. But I just don't think people have ever had the political will to raise it, because people would call it a tax. But it's not a tax. It's something that all of us already pay on every paycheck until you hit 147,000, and then they no longer take that SSI deduction.
Wow. So the working class are paying for the Social Security.
Yes, 100%.
And that would also, because I remember even years ago, they would say, hey, Social Security is going to be empty for your generation, for
Right,
like
yes.
Generation X or, I'm sorry, the millennials, right?
Yes.
The millennials won't have a retirement or Social Security, but it seems like what you're saying, that could alleviate that
100%.
that problem.
Yes. Yes. And
Wow.
it's a federal issue. So when I was in the Senate, there was nothing statewide that we could do about it. It's a federal issue. And I just don't think people have had, for whatever reason, the political will to do it. And I don't know. To me, it's logical. Why would people not vote for that? You're already paying in. Just keep paying in. And then we can make sure that we're taking care of our older folks our seniors who have worked their whole lives. They should have something that they can rely on. They want to eat when they're old. They want to maybe travel a little bit, go to a movie. What a concept.
Yeah, buy a new dress.
Buy a new dress, exactly, So to me, it's always seemed very logical, but it just hasn't happened.
In my opinion, Connie, I don't think many average citizens even knew about that.
I agree with you. I don't think they do either. We just hosted at KVCR yesterday a civics engagement event, talking to people about being civically engaged. And we need to have more of those things and talk to people, our average citizens, so that they know. This was mostly with students, which was wonderful because KVCR sits on the Valley College campus. We're part of SBCCD school district, and we can educate our young people, which are going to be making decisions for all of us in the near future.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people say it's kind of scary the way the mindset of some of these young adults are going, like, you're going to be allowed to vote?
Yeah, right.
Oh, God. Dear God.
It's true. Even I feel that way sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes I'm like, okay, don't be old. But there are some of our young people are just brilliant, and they think outside the box, and they have grown up in a different way than we grew up, and so they have different ideas, and they're not all bad ideas. But we also need to educate them so they can do the best for themselves and for all of us.
Definitely. Because it just makes me think of, because I'm thinking about like the younger generation as a whole. As opposed to have you ever heard this term called soft girl era?
No.
So basically it's kind of like, we'll say like young millennials, Gen Zs, and they're like, we don't want to work. We don't want to do anything. We just want to be cute and have someone pay for us.
Yes.
We want to live a soft girl era.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And it's like, okay, you're going to be voting?
Yes.
Okay, for sure.
So, I think what I would say to that is I could not do that. I love working and being productive and making change and problem solving. And that's just kind of the way that I'm built. But I guess I would also say this. The world treats women differently than it treats men. A white man, can find a job more easily, even if he is not educated, than people of color or women. And so I don't like that term, soft girl life, but, is that what women think they have to do in order to have a good living? I don't know.
It's more like, I don't want to work.
I don't want to work.
I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
I just want to sit, be cute, and have someone just
Yeah.
feed me like a queen princess type of thing.
Sounds like a miserable existence to me, but and I haven't heard of that, and that that troubles me for a lot of reasons. I think that everyone has something of value. We are all put on this earth and we have something to contribute. And I think these young women have more to contribute than maybe they've ever been told. And maybe they've never, I'll tell you, I'm 58 years old and I still get excited when I get my paycheck every month. And I guess they're getting paid in a different way because they're, on social media or whatnot. But I think that being self-sufficient is really a big deal, and being able to take care of yourself and maybe your family is a really big deal. And if you've never experienced that, you might have a different way you would have a different way of looking at things. So I would love to talk to some of these young ladies and say, you know what, you have more to offer in this world. You can help us get to the next level, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And like, I'm okay with like the, I guess, quote unquote, traditional aspect, which is like stay at home mom.
Yeah.
But she's willing to, like, she's contributing in her way.
Oh,
but the way
yeah.
these soft girls are talking about, they're like, we don't want to do
anything. Yeah.
anything,
Yeah.
like anything. But Connie, I want to go back to you, right?
Yes, sorry.
We like to go, don't apologize. We're having fun. We're having fun
Okay,
here. We're having
sounds
fun. We travel, we know.
Wherever we go, we go.
Wherever we go, wherever the wind blows us,
I like it.
type of thing.
Okay.
But we like to go deep here, kind of like Shaq's shoe size. And can you give us a brief origin story about where you grew up, how you grew up,
Oh, sure.
up to becoming the wonderful woman that you are today?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I was born in Kansas, Fort Riley. My dad was in the service, a Vietnam veteran. And so I was born there, but we were very lucky. My dad didn't have to go to Vietnam because he was a cook in the WAC detachment. And
What's that?
yes, the WAC detachment was the women attachment. And so they liked what he was doing. They kept him there. And he actually had a really wonderful female, I don't know all my ranks, general or not general, but a sergeant, I'm not sure, who said, do you want, when he finished his 2 years of basic training, do you want to go to Vietnam? And he said, I have a family, I'd rather not. And so she didn't send him. And I am forever grateful for that because our family would have probably been very different. My dad may not have come home. If he did come home, he would have come home probably a very different man, as we've seen so many of our young men, now older men, who went to Vietnam and fought for this country, and we appreciate them. So as soon as he was done, he and my mom, myself, who was 18 months, my brother, who was about 8 months, got in a car and headed back to California because they were from California. And so I grew up here in Chino. Went to all the local schools in Chino, Newman Elementary, Ramona Junior High, graduated from Don Lugo High School, and a very working class family. And we didn't really go, our vacations consisted of going camping, which was great. We went out to the Lake El Mirage in the desert or up to Lake Hemet and fished. So, not a lot of extra money. And, if we got $1 to walk to 7-Eleven and get some of the penny candy and a Slurpee, that was a good day. But I always feel very lucky, and I tell my mom and dad, thank you for sending me into the world without any baggage. They loved me, they loved my brother, and they let us grow up to be the people we were supposed to be. And when I say that, I mean my mom says I was born with an agenda. And I was just telling the story this morning of getting kicked out of the choir when I was in second grade. They were at the elementary school. They were saying, someone is off key. Someone is off key. Well, I was just belting it out. And they're like, it's you. And I was like, oh, okay. But then they let me be the MC for the talent show in second grade. And so I think that was just my calling and who I thought who I was meant to be. In junior high, I tried out for the drill team, did not make the drill team because I'm not terribly coordinated. Tried out for cheerleading, made the cheerleading squad. But after 2 weeks, I'm like, they were just being nice to me. I'm not cut out for this.
Okay.
And ran for 8th grade class president and won. I still have the posters that I made, Vote for Connie Thedford, hung in my Senate office, and they now hang in my office at my house. Went to high school, didn't particularly love high school because I just thought it was boring. Got a job when I was 14 keeping books at a dance studio. And then went to work for Alpha Beta, which some folks might know. It was a local grocery store. Went to work there when I was a senior in high school. It was a local grocery store, Union Grocery Store. Met my favorite husband there. We got married and both finished college while we were married and had our twins, which I don't recommend to anybody. Get married after college, have kids after college. It worked for us, but it did make it harder. But yeah, so I did all of that and was working at the grocery store, got laid off when I was 6 months pregnant. And I was home with our girls for a couple of years and then went to work for the union. Did my work there, as we talked about a little earlier. Loved all of that. My husband took 10 years off and watched our girls so that I could do my thing in the labor movement, which I'll be forever grateful for. When he said, hey, I'll quit and stay home with the girls, I said, okay, wait a minute. You have to do all the grocery shopping, the cooking, the laundry. You're up for that? He goes, I'm up for that. And he goes, but if I get everything done, can I go golfing? And I go, of course.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure during that 10 years, he never golfed.
Oh.
But he did coach baseball. He's still a baseball coach. He coaches now at Colony High School in Ontario. They just won the CIF championship last year, first time in the school's history. Very proud of him. They're having a great season this year. They're 20-3. But we've been here in Chino we started in Colton, bought a house in Colton when we first got married. And I think part of our story is what has made me do everything I've done. I wanted people to have the opportunity that we had. We got married when we were young, 21 and 23. And we worked in a good union job. And at 21 and 23, we were able to buy a house. And that's just not an opportunity for most people now. So we bought that house for $99,990.
Wow.
And yeah, right? That doesn't happen anymore. And so we were very fortunate. We lived there. We had the house for 10 years. And then we moved to Chino. And we rented it for a few years because at the time the market was upside down, and so we weren't able to sell it. And then we sold it later. We probably should have kept it. Would have been a better investment to keep it, but we were still young and thought we wanted that money. But we've been in our house in Chino for 27 years, and just I feel very lucky, very blessed. We've had a good life. We've worked hard, and we've been lucky. People always say, "Oh, well, you work hard, you deserve it." No, I know a lot of people that work hard. We've also been lucky. We've had good opportunities, and so I also think about always wanting to give other opportunities to people to make sure that they can have some of the fortune that we've had.
I love that. Lucky. And it's good that you admit, like, hey, there's some luck that was
Oh,
involved.
100%. Yes.
There was three things that I was trying to remember, and I can only remember two, unfortunately.
The third one will come.
Hopefully, well, fingers crossed. You said your mom had said that you had an agenda.
Yes.
Do you know what that was? Like, what she was referring to?
She just said that you were born and you had an agenda. You were ready to go in the world. And she said you always wanted to take responsibility from day one. She said you were always a responsible kid. She said you were the one we'd tell something to and you would, oh, okay, and take our advice. She said your brother, on the other hand, was the one who would say, oh, well, let me see if mom and dad were really right and test them. But yeah, I think that's what she meant, that I knew what I wanted and that I was always had something to do.
Are you, since you did so much outdoor activity, are you still an outdoor type of lady?
No.
Okay, no camping
Great
for you.
question. No. So when we were newer in our marriage, some friends of ours bought a trailer to go camping. And my husband's like, what do you think? Because he camped as a kid too. He goes, what do you think? Should we do that with our girls? And I said, no, I think I'd rather hotel camp.
Okay.
So no camping. And we were buy a trailer, put in a pool. We put in a pool, and I think it was a great investment because in high school, the kids were always at our house. So we always knew where our girls were. We knew who they were associating with. So I think we made a good choice. But yeah, wonderful memories. But I also remember how hard my mom and dad worked, getting the camper ready and then cleaning up when we got home. And I'm like, that was a vacation for us kids. I don't know how much of a vacation it was for my mom and dad. So I'm like, we'll hotel camp.
Okay, we'll be good. Room service?
Yeah, I don't even need room service.
Gotcha.
Just a nice place to lay my head and maybe in an area where we can walk around and see things.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good. You mentioned something that I thought is really important. I think that a lot of, in my opinion, modern day couples don't think about, which is having the conversation about what do we expect out of each other?
Yes.
And how can we make this work?
Yes. You are 100% right, Antonio. People say to us, "Oh my gosh, you guys have been married 36 years. What's the magic? What's the secret?" And I always say, you know what? It's rooting for each other. It's, his success is my success. My success is his success. We want to see each other happy. We want to see each other do well. And having those conversations. We got married in a Catholic church, and we had to take counseling classes before. And I think it was good. It was stuff, for whatever reason, we had already talked about finances. We'd already talked about, when we got married and we had kids, we would raise them in the Catholic Church. I think a lot of people get married and they don't talk about that. And we saw a lot of our friends who, once they started having children, one was like, well, we don't want to baptize our child. The other one is like, well, I do want to baptize our child. Have those conversations before you have children, because that will be very hard on your marriage if you don't. So I think, again, lucky we had those conversations. There's a lot of luck involved, and also a lot of just my husband always says he remembers the priest saying 5 little words: be nice to each other. And it's pretty accurate. Be nice to each other.
It works.
Yeah, it works. This is your person. Doesn't mean we haven't had arguments and over the years, but not been happy with each other. But you figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, I think it's impossible not to have a disagreement with someone that you're close with.
Right.
I
It
feel
would
like
be
it's
it would be
impossible.
weird
Yeah.
if you didn't. Yeah.
It's like, are you human?
Right. Exactly.
What are you? Are you even real?
Exactly.
Let me wake up. I think I have arguments in my dreams, so that doesn't even work. But yeah, I think like a lot of going back to like, I don't think people had that conversation about, like, even when you said like, hey, like if you're going to retire for 10 years, I need you to, can you do this, do this, do that?
Yes.
Like some people are just like, hey, I'm just going to do this, you do that, blah, 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 blah. We'll meet in the middle. It's like,
Yeah,
that's a
no.
disaster waiting to happen.
It is. Yeah. And you share finances with each other, make sure, I do all of our bills, but Al knows what's going on. And I think, just be real and be open with each other, because you don't want to, no person wants to find out something that, we're in debt or whatever. So
Yes.
Talk to each other.
Yes, preparation, ladies and gentlemen.
Preparation,
Preparation,
yes.
ladies and gentlemen. Al is your favorite husband.
He is my favorite husband.
Do you have an unfavorite husband?
I don't. Years ago, I started calling him my favorite husband. And so people always laugh and they're like, do you have an unfavorite husband? And I'm like, no, I don't know why. I just started calling him my favorite husband. So nope, he's the one and only.
Okay, good job. Well, Al, we're in the clear. We're in the clear, Al.
He's in the clear. That's right.
There is no Mr. Postman around the corner or anything like that.
No.
Miss Leyva, Mrs. Leyva, what does the day in life look like typically for an executive director for KVCR?
Good question. Probably every day's a little bit different, which is what I like. But it also is very much the same in one way that I very much like. I get to go to the office every day, or I get to come do things like this with you. When I was in the Senate, we were all over the place. Fly up on Monday and stay in Sacramento till Thursday, and then the weekends, you're out doing events. I like the consistency and continuity of going to the station every day. I also like that I've had the opportunity to build KVCR. When I came in, no one had sat in my chair for 2 years. And prior to that, they had 5 different general managers over 10 years. So I really believe in continuity, and I really believe that I also believe in going to work every day. I know that there's a lot of people who like to work from home or want to work from home. If you want to really build an environment and build something, an organization, you got to be there every day. I mean, obviously, you're going to take days off or have a vacation or whatnot, but being there every day, making sure people know that you're committed as the executive director, as the person who the buck stops with, you got to be there every day. During COVID, different story. But now we're all back and we should be working. And I also just think that people need human interaction. So for me at KVCR, it was really getting to learn what it's about and trying to break down silos, because we are a siloed entity just by the nature of what we do. You've got the radio team, you've got the TV production team, we've got the development team. So we got to bring everybody together. So one of the first things I started doing was weekly staff meetings, which I was surprised they didn't do that prior to me getting there, because to me that's just like leadership 101. But whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
We assume that people would know such things, but yes.
So that's a way for us to start breaking down the silos and making sure TV knows what radio's doing and development knows what everybody's doing. And I love to see the progress that we've made. First couple of staff meetings, everybody was just like, okay, okay. Nobody spoke. Nobody offered any ideas. And now our staff meetings are fun. We laugh. Everybody feels comfortable contributing. And to me, that's what really makes a good work environment. So, like today, I'm here with you, but back at the studio, we're filming Learn With Me. We have our director of HR, Christina Hannon, who's going to be one of the teachers on the show. We have Superintendent Ted Alejandre, who's going to do one of the episodes as well. So yesterday we had an event in the studio. Radio yesterday, we were doing one of our reporters, Jessica Greenwell, who's also our morning edition host. They were doing the first 100 days of Trump with the California report. So there's just always a little something going on. Development, we're always doing underwriting. We're always trying to find new ways to bring money in. People might not know that we don't receive any money from the college campus. They keep the lights on and they clean the bathrooms. We're grateful for both of those.
Yes.
But we fundraise. We have members who contribute monthly, but then we're always looking for money and grants or whatnot. So that the CPB funding that we could lose, that's something that would be a concern. We will find a way to make it work because we're not going away. But just that's what's great about it. There's always something going on. It's a very dynamic organization.
Yeah, we're always looking for funding.
Yeah, you're right, isn't it? It's
we're
so
all
true.
looking for funding,
All right, Antonio, I'll be looking for you too.
Yeah, we all looking for funding. Hey, I appreciate that.
No problem.
Man, there's so many different questions, but I guess I'll start with the first one I can think of, which is, what's the different roles between a general manager and an executive director?
Great question. Same role, different name. So most PBS or NPR heads are a general manager, but my boss decided to change the name to executive director. My guess is they had not had a lot of luck with general managers, so he wanted to break the mold. And I don't know that. I'm just making that up.
Yeah.
But same exact role. My job is to oversee the entire operation. If there's a problem, people are going to come looking for me. If things go well, I hope they recognize the team.
I like that. That's good leadership, actually.
Yeah, thank you.
That is great leadership.
Yeah. Well, it's my job to hire good people and let them do their job and make sure they get the credit that they deserve. I would not be in my spot, and the station would not be doing well without every single person at KVCR.
Ooh. And how do you decide on which programs is worth being accepted or greenlit for the
That's a great
KVCR?
question. So we actually buy programming from a PBS. So it's kind of like envision a big library.
Okay.
And so we pick the shows. We sit down once a year when we renew our PBS contract. Excuse me. And then we decide what we're going to air. People who have been there far longer than me, like Ben Holland, who does most of our program managing, he knows what people like because people will let us know what they do not like and what they like. So we know that Lawrence Welk, believe it or not, we have people send us a check for $500 and it says specifically, don't cancel Lawrence Welk. So we do have a group of people who love Lawrence Welk, but then we kind of try to think of the things that we know people like, and then also things that we think they might like. And people will let us know if they do or don't like it. I'm trying to think of things, all of like the Masterpiece and all of those. Antiques Roadshow, people love that show. The Kids Block, which is from 6 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. Everybody loves all of that programming. Those are, like I tell my daughters who are raising my grandchildren, you can turn on PBS and turn on the children's block, and you don't have to worry about what my grandchildren are watching. It's all age appropriate, which to me as a parent and a grandparent is just such a blessing because, there's so much kids can watch, and some of it's good, some of it's not so good.
That part.
So we sit down then once a year and decide what we're going to put on the programming. We actually have 4 channels. We have Create, which is how to make things, how to sew, how to cook, kind of a crafty show. People love that. We have our PBS channel Out in the Desert, and that is a little different programming, but very similar to what we air on Channel 24. And then we have FNX, First Nations Experience. We are the only PBS station who has that. It was founded in 2012 with a grant from San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, and it's an amazing show. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 of Native and Indigenous programming. So we are getting ready to launch we have launched a soft launch of an app, so anybody can download it and watch FNX for free on their phone. We're getting ready to have a big gala in May. I just dated the show, and that will be a kickoff of the FNX app. So we've got 4 stations that we're running, and it's wonderful to be a part of all of them.
Wow. And so your mind is basically jumping in all of these avenues and these, you know what it made me think of, and maybe you guys are already doing it. You kind of said it, but it's an idea that maybe I should share with you guys, but maybe it might be a cool idea to have like a cooking show / highlighting like the local chefs, the local food business owners in the IE, and have them come in, make some food. Because I know there's been an association between watching people eat and cook, and
It's very communal.
yeah, there's been
So you're reading my mind, Antonio.
Yeah.
I would love to have a cooking show. I've been talking about it since I got here. I've got 2 versions. One is what you said, highlighting local chefs, local food in the Inland Empire. Another one would to bring someone in and have a show that features like cooking for kids, healthy foods. We're just looking for funding. So it'll happen. It'll happen because I think I've always said I want to highlight local restaurants and, help generate business for the Inland Empire. And everybody likes to eat out, right? And eating is very communal, and it makes people a sense of family and a sense of togetherness.
Yeah, and people just like to watch. People watch hundreds of videos of people just eating.
Yes,
Yeah.
eating. I'd rather watch somebody cook than eat, but, we could do both and make sure we're appealing to the masses.
Definitely. You have them come in and cook on the show and then eat on the show. It's a win-win.
It is a win-win. That's exactly right.
My
so
idea.
coming someday soon.
Yeah, so we're on the same level?
We are on the same level.
Right on time. I always love when I'm in tune and it feels like I'm on the right point. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did you ever say that the Inland Empire is a news desert?
Yes, absolutely.
Is it still a news desert?
Yes. You
Okay.
think about all of our newspapers in the Inland Empire, they're one conglomerate now. We don't have individual newspapers who have different reporters out there. I don't even know how many reporters we have in the Inland Empire. We might have more at KVCR than they have in the IE.
Yeah.
Not really, but we have 2.5, and we're looking to hire more.
Got you. What's
but
the half look like?
the part-time.
Okay. I was like, we say little people. No, it's joking.
Right. No. Half a reporter is a part-time reporter.
Okay.
But we just don't have enough people covering news and covering what's happening in the Inland Empire, and that's why I call us a news desert. We are trying to be an aggregator at KVCR. We belong to something called the Hub, and we are trying to bring in more entities so that we can all work together and try and cover more. There's a lot of great stuff going on, and a lot of stuff that we should be covering that affect people's lives that they should know about. So when I first got to KVCR, we had a halftime reporter, one reporter, and now we have 2.5. So we're just going to keep growing that so that we can offer more news to our people. And we're thinking about doing a podcast. So yeah.
Might as well. It's like everyone and their mom does a podcast nowadays. It's like, hey, why not?
We got to find something interesting. So, maybe we'll get some tips from you.
Hey, I never planned on doing this. This kind of happened by accident, but a beautiful accident, as they say.
There you go.
Right? Destiny, I like to think, in a way. And I won't go into it, but that makes sense that it's a desert, because when you say, like, I'm thinking, like, have I ever seen a news reporter out in? Do I even know about a news station in the Inland Empire? And I guess the Inland Empire what would you say, goes from like Pomona all the way to How far out would you say?
The Inland Empire all the way to, Coachella.
Okay.
All the way out. But you bring me to something else. Before I leave KVCR, which isn't going to be for a while, I also want to have a news desk. I want, instead of people turning on channel 5, channel 7, turn on channel 24, and there will be your news desk giving you your morning updates. We'll have a news van that goes out and interviews people to be on TV, to be on radio. Because we have the capacity with the station to do it. We need more people to do it. So we will continue to look for funding so that we can do that. We also want to build on another studio, because if you have a news desk, you have to leave that set up all the time. So that would take up all of our room in our studio. So we build another studio because we have students that are in our studio. They are taking classes with the IMA, the Institute of Media Arts, the IMA. And so we want to make sure our students, our next generation, are still learning about TV and radio, and they have a place to attend their classes and learn the actual hands-on part of it.
Wow. You know what you reminded me is, and I think it's a quote from the Bible, which is like, the plenty is full, but the laborers are few.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. That's totally accurate.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you looking to be in TV and film or radio, reach out to Connie Leyva here in KVCR, and might have a place for you.
You never know.
I was going to save this question for later, but my mind's going there, and I have to go.
Let's do it.
Can you tell the difference between a good journalist and a bad journalist? And the reason why I ask this is because I feel like a lot of people, definitely because of our social media age,
Yes.
just wants to be on camera, just to be on camera.
Yes. So I would say a good journalist versus a less good journalist
Got you.
is someone
Amazing English.
Is someone who is asking the right questions, someone who is more worried about you as the interviewee than them being on camera. It should not be about the interviewer. It should be about the person you're interviewing. And then when we talk about journalism, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. How do you distinguish facts from opinion? And I think part of that is when you have a journalist, if you're writing a piece, you should have both sides of the story in there. If I'm writing a piece and we also talked about opinion, op-eds. I reminded people an op-ed is someone's opinion. So if I write an op-ed, you're getting Connie Leyva's opinion. It may be full of facts. It may just be full of what I think is right. So making sure people know what they're reading. And if you're reading something and it only presents one viewpoint, that's probably not, you're not getting the whole truth. You're getting one side of a story. So always look for both sides of the story in that piece that you're reading. And a good journalist will present both sides.
What's an op-ed for people who may not know?
An opposition, opinion, op-ed. No, I don't even know. But you'll see it in your paper, opinion, editorial. There we go. Opinion editorial. So you will see that in the paper. There aren't a lot of papers still, but you'll see an op-ed even on social media sometimes. And it's something that someone wrote, and it's their opinion about something. When I was in the Senate, sometimes we would write them, and it would give my opinion about a bill that I was doing and why I thought the bill should move forward and become a law. But just always remember, op-ed means someone's opinion.
As opposed to complete facts or both sides.
Exactly.
And that's so interesting. And I love when I'm in tune with the question lined up, because would you say that most mainstream media now is about opinions as opposed to facts?
Absolutely. I think I alluded to it earlier, or I may have even said it. You can tune in to any station, or you can find the station that you're going to hear what you want to hear. We like to flip around at my house, my husband and I, because it's always interesting to me what's on Fox News versus what's on CNN versus what's on the radio, or what's on the regular TV. And they can all be so different. And the way they report on a specific issue can be so different. So it's also good to look at different ways that things are reported. But I mean, Fox News was sued a number of years ago and had to pay $767 million, I think, because they're considered an entertainment show. They're not even considered news. And so that you never want that. That's not good. Again, that's what I love about KVCR and public media in general. No spin, no bias. We just give you the facts.
I love that. And it's so interesting because I was literally having a conversation with a gentleman a couple of days ago about news is really not news. It's mostly salacious entertainment to keep you entertained.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah. Is that the term they use?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes. We don't, but yeah, in regular traditional broadcast, yeah.
If it bleeds, it leads.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Wow. And the other thing that I wanted to say was what's a form of advice that you would give for someone that can be able to tell the difference between like an opinion and a fact and to like, be able to decipher like what's to go through and what's what?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. And if you're not sure, go to different outlets. So let's say you're on Facebook and something is posted there, or on Instagram and something's posted there. Look it up someplace else. Google it, search for it, see if you're getting the same story. Sometimes you aren't, and then you have to figure out which is fact and which is fiction. Or again, when you're reading something, if it only presents one side, it might not be factual, or it might only be partially factual because they're not giving you the other side of the story.
And I feel like, in my opinion, most news outlets don't give you both sides of the story.
No, they give you the salacious part, right? The part that they think are going to make people tune in and watch. People tune in to NPR and to PBS because they know we're going to tell them the truth.
Ooh, and no fluff,
No fluff.
nothing. Yeah, just. What did they say?
No filler.
Straight no chaser. That's the thing.
Straight no chaser. There you go.
Straight no chaser.
That's us.
I like that. Would you like to play a game with us?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not a great game player, but I'll try.
It's a fun game. It's
Okay.
It's called Memorable Moments.
Memorable moments. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to give you this drawing here, and I
Okay.
want you to tell me what do you think's happening in this drawing.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Reminds me of when I took the test to be in the GATE program when I was a little kid. They showed me drawings and I had to tell them what it was. Okay, so tell you what's happening here?
Yeah, tell me what do you think's going on there.
Well, it says hospital at the top, I think. So it looks like it's raining. And maybe there's somebody in one of the upper floors that does not look happy. So I would say someone's having surgery or they're sick and they're not happy about it.
Flip it over. Tell me what it says.
Okay. The day I realized we all have to go one day. Oh, okay. I guess I was a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this is fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I like that I get the answer on the back.
Yes. And I want to know if you do us a favor and draw us a memorable moment that happened in your life.
Sure.
Yeah?
Okay, yeah.
Alrighty.
There have been so many.
Yeah, whichever comes to your mind.
Okay.
So here you go.
Let's see. Thank you.
And
thank you. We're going to keep talking while I'm drawing?
no, you take your time so that way you can focus.
Okay,
that way you
sounds
can
good.
focus,
A
yeah.
memorable moment.
Yeah.
Ooh, there have been a few.
Thank you for sharing and playing.
Yes, you're welcome.
What was I going to say? Yes, I believe I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
relationships matter.
Yes.
Can you explain why?
So as I've gotten older, I've really come to realize and value relationships. I think it really struck home when I came to work at KVCR and we were trying to rebuild the organization and I needed help. And you get help when you build relationships. And relationships come from working with people, people trusting you, you trusting them. A relationship should never be one-sided, should never be just take, or give. It should be mutually beneficial. And so for me, when I got to KVCR, to be able to call people from my time in the labor movement, from my time in the Senate, and say, hey, we're doing XYZ. Can you help? Will you be a part of it? And to have every single person say yes really made me realize that relationships matter and that we're building them every single day. And I think I was kind of grateful, thinking, oh, okay, I was doing that and didn't even really realize I was doing it. And so now I want to say it more because I want younger people to realize that the people they're interacting with, they may need them or want to call on them 20 years from now. And if you have a bad interaction with someone or treat someone badly, they're not going to want to help you. And you're all relationships bring value at some point. Sometimes it's how you don't want to be. When I became a boss for the first time, I said, I know from my previous boss exactly how I don't want to be. And sometimes people do things and you know that you don't want to repeat that. So you can find something in every relationship that can be valuable, but relationships matter.
I love that. And I guess that's where people, that term that comes with don't burn bridges.
Don't burn bridges. Absolutely. I've probably burned a few, but you try to, when I was running for office, my consultant used to always tell me, we want more people in the friend column than in the enemy column. And so I'm like, okay, I got it. I like to think I don't really have any enemies, probably people that don't like me, and that's fine. But yeah, don't burn bridges. Try not to.
Gotcha. Is that where that term also, you catch more flies with honey?
Yes, than you
Situation?
do with vinegar. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And I think sometimes when you're younger, I know for me, when I was younger, it was easier for me to maybe say something if I didn't like something, say something a little negative. And then you get a little older and realize, what was the value in that? The value would be, why is that person unhappy? Why are they treating me like that? Maybe if I'm kind, we can work through this. And especially if it's someone you're going to work with. And maybe that person is unhappy, maybe instead of just jumping to conclusions, maybe you have a kind word for them. Maybe nobody said anything kind to them. But I also think, too, as a woman starting out in my career, I definitely viewed kindness as weakness. I felt like I had to be really tough and really strong because I was working mostly with men. It's a wonderful place to be when you get to the point where you know, kindness is your strength. Anybody can be mean. That's easy. So I would say for people starting out, learn to be kind early on, and the world will be your oyster.
Yeah. And I think that with the term like kindness is for weakness is when it's like, I'm kind or I'm nice or whatever term you want to use, but I'm not a pushover.
Exactly. And you won't take advantage of me.
Yes.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
You know, and, since we're talking about relationships, can we speak a little bit about your relationship with Manny?
Yes.
Here? And how it started and why he was such a crucial person to reach back to from the past to the future.
Absolutely. So Manny is here with me today. He is our Director of Development at KVCR, but Manny and I have known each other and worked together for 10 years. When I was running for the Senate, Manny volunteered on my campaign. That's really where we got to know each other. And when I found out I won, the first call I made was to him. And I said, hey, can we meet for breakfast or lunch, I think it was lunch, and talk about the future. And I asked him if he would be my district director in the Senate and if he would help me build my team. He said yes, and he did. And I was lucky to have him with me for the entire 8 years. When I was elected, I said I wanted to change the way people thought about their elected officials, that I wanted them to know that they could count on us. And I shared that with Manny, and he helped me realize that dream and make sure that we did do that. The other thing I told him is I said, Manny, I said, people are always late. Elected officials are always late. I do not want to be late. So help me stay on time, because I just think that's disrespectful. And I think in 8 years, I can count on one hand, how many times that we were late to something. And it was usually because there was something unexpected. But Manny helped me with that. And he made sure that the team knew that I always wanted to be on time and be respectful of other people's time. But he helped me build a wonderful organization in our district, mentored people. We had a young senators program. We had interns that came through. And people would always talk about and still do talk about what a great experience they had in Senator Leyva's office as an intern. But you know what? Really, that credit goes to Manny, because I was in Sacramento 4 days a week, and he was the one making sure that the interns had a good experience. So when I decided not to run for my last term, it was terrible for everybody. We were all sad, but I knew it was time. I was really tired of living away from home. The hardest part was knowing that that my staff wouldn't have a job, and trying to help them find a job. I got hired at KVCR, and I needed a director of development. And the first person I thought of was Manny. And when I called him, he said, "Connie, don't hire your friends, hire the people who can do the job." I go, "Thank you, but you are that person." Because when people write a check to an organization, they don't write the check to the organization. People write checks to people. Manny knows so many people. My joke is that if Manny doesn't know you, you don't exist in the world. And people like him. To spend as many years as he has spent in politics, and I would say he doesn't have any enemies, is remarkable. So bringing him on as my director of development, to me, just made sense. And he has helped us build that part of KVCR. Oh my gosh, we are in such a better place. Our underwriting is up, our contributions up, our grants are up, our membership is up. So I'm thrilled to have him. It's great to get to go to work. Although I did tell him, I go, "Manny, you used to only see me 1 or 2 days a week, because I was in Sacramento 4 days a week. You're gonna have to see me 5 days a week now. You might quit."
Yeah.
And so we laugh about that. And of course, he hasn't quit. But he's one of the reasons we're doing so well at KVCR.
Got you. Maybe he has like one foot out the door, it's just like,
He better not.
shout out to you, Manny. Shout out to you. I think you made me think of a question, because I was talking to my friend about this, which I guess is related to like nepotism,
Oh, yeah.
which is like, do you hire someone who's best for the job, or do you want to support someone who can get the job done, but you know and respect them as an individual?
So I think it's a combination.
Yeah.
You want to, when you walk into an organization and you are tasked with, in this case at KVCR, really completely turning it around. And as someone has said to me, taking the Titanic off the bottom of the ocean and bringing it upright, you need people you can trust, and you need people who you know will work. And Manny and I had worked together for 8 years, and I knew we shared the same vision, the same work ethic, and I knew that he would give me his all. And that's what I needed. I needed somebody who would come in and just give me 100% every day and get the job done. And he has done that, and then some.
Yeah. And so that's the point I like to make with nepotism, I guess, quote unquote, is not saying that this is nepotism, but the idea I was talking to my friend about, which is like, wouldn't you rather hire someone that you know has a ethical background, you can trust their work or their work style, as opposed to like, this person has X amount of credentials and stuff like that, but I don't know what their work life is. I don't know anything else about them.
No, and I think to me, nepotism is more about just hiring family.
Okay.
And hiring family because, oh, it's my daughter, it's my husband, whatever. I think that always puts a bad taste in people's mouth. But people knowing that Manny and I had worked together, that put some pressure on him too, right? So that people wouldn't look at him and think that I just brought him in because we were friends. And he proved himself immediately. And someone who interviewed for the job said to me, "Well, what does he have that I don't have?" I said, "He has connections." I said, "And he's nice. He's a kind person." And it goes back to the thing that I said about people write checks to people. They don't write checks to organizations. And I know that Manny can talk to people, and he has people's respect.
That is so good. That's such a good line. Take that notes, folks. People write checks to people, not organizations.
Yep.
So it's about also how you present yourself.
Yep. It's about relationships too. So think about it. KVCR, you might love KVCR, but if Connie Leyva's a jerk, you don't want to help us out. Because I or Manny as our director of development are an extension of KVCR. So if we're not nice people, if we don't conduct ourselves in an appropriate manner, you're going to think, I don't want to write a check there. It's just going to Connie or to Manny.
Yeah.
So people write checks to people.
Wow. That makes me think of two other things, which is how much a personal brand affects the other brands,
Absolutely.
right? Like your personal brand is so much
Your
connected.
personal, I love that. Your personal brand is really important. I used to tell people when I was in the Senate, I said, figure out who you are and be that person. And mostly I was talking to them about their vote record because voting should not be that hard. If you know who you are and know what you value, then you're going to vote yes or no on a bill and it wouldn't be that hard. You might get lobbied a lot by one side or the other, but people, I think after my first 2 years, voting got significantly easier because people knew who I was. They knew that this is how Connie's going to vote. Connie is going to be there for the people. She's going to vote on things that are going to help people. Nothing with oil, nothing with tobacco, nothing with Walmart. She's not going to associate with those folks. So figure out who you are, be that person.
Got you. No Wally World.
No Wally World. No, they destroyed retail grocery.
Did they?
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole nother episode. Part 2 coming soon,
Part
folks.
2, that's
Part 2.
right.
So Wally World. And I always hear so many from the business side. I always hear so many great things about. I can't even think of his name that started the Walmart.
I should know that too. Walton.
Yeah, yes.
Walton, Mr. Walton. What,
Yes.
Jack Walton? No,
Yeah,
Walton. We'll go with that.
about how ingenious his vision was for starting Walmart and how it was like groundbreaking in business. But
Groundbreaking for business, not good for labor. He even back when he started, he wanted to pay people a lesser than minimum wage because he thought that worked for his business model. Well, sure, it worked for your business model if you can get cheap labor, but maybe your people you're employing want to eat. Maybe they want to drive a car. They want a roof over their heads. You got to pay people a living wage.
yeah. Oh, and then connecting to my next question, just about because I guess America's been built off of cheap labor and still lives off of cheap labor.
Yes.
All right. So, what's your thoughts on AI, deep fakes, and possibly using this in the information age and maybe even for KVCR?
So deep fakes, real bad. I mean, that's scary. We should all be afraid of that. That your face, your likeness, your image could be used in a nefarious way. So I don't know how we completely get around that. AI is a new one. I mean, NPR, because that's where the majority of writing happens, is on the radio side, and NPR has put together an ethics handbook on how to use AI ethically when you're reporting. So the way we see it being used is you have a reporter who writes their article, their report, and then puts it into AI to cut it down to, cut down to 100 words or whatnot. So it's still the writer's words, the reporter's words, but it fits into whatever it is we need it to fit into. So I see AI being helpful in that regard. I'm going back to school to get my master's, so I'm going to have to figure out. I'm not into AI. I like writing. So I'll have to figure out, though, I have a feeling going back to school, I'm going to learn a little bit more about AI. But for us at the radio station, we're figuring it out as well. The most important one was figuring out for our reporters to make sure they knew how to use it properly and ethically. But I think there's more to come on that front.
Gotcha. Why are you going back to school and for what?
I'm going to get my master's in organizational leadership. I'm kind of a school nerd. I would stay in school my whole life, except that it doesn't necessarily pay the bills. I love to learn. When I was in the Senate, I used to joke that it was like going to college, except you got paid because we had to know so much about so many things, and I loved that. So I think I'm at KVCR pretty much every day. So taking classes in the evenings, I can drive over to U of R and take classes. Some of them are online. So I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to do this.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Exactly. Knowledge is power.
Yeah, don't forget that, folks. Knowledge is power.
It is.
I think I'm with you on the aspect of AI, which is I'm on both sides of the fence, which is I'll go on the negative side of the fence first, which I think, or I'll be nice, which is I think it could be used as a tool, right, to help make things easier.
Agreed.
And blah blah blah. But I've been talking to a lot of elders and they say that they see AI and maybe even some contemporaries saying they see AI as taking the critical thinking away from individuals.
Ooh, I agree with that. Yeah. Ooh, I hadn't heard that, but I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
And we lack critical thinking, Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
People don't critically think. We don't teach our kids to critically think. And I link critical thinking and problem solving. If you don't know how to critical think, you're not going to be a good problem solver.
Mm-hmm.
And life is about problem solving, right? Be it at home, be it in the workplace, be it in society. We've got to know how to problem solve. So I think I agree with that.
Yeah, because why would I have to think about it? Say, AI, what does this mean? Okay, cool, I accept it. And AI has been proved, they call it hallucinations.
Ooh.
Do you know what that is?
No.
It's basically like it'll give you an answer that is completely erroneous.
Oh.
And they call it hallucinations, which is an interesting term.
That is.
And the only reason why, so the AI's job is to please you. So it's going to give you whatever, it's going to give you whatever, anything to make you happy, even if it's wrong. It's just trying to make you happy. That's his job.
Really scary.
That's his job.
Yeah.
And so if you're not keen on a subject, so like let's say, okay, talk to me about infrastructure and how to build infrastructure, and AI will say, you put two bananas together, and you're like, okay, well, banana must
I love
mean
bananas.
this. Yeah, it must mean this.
Yeah.
So okay, I take your word for it.
Interesting.
But if you don't have a background in understanding, you're like, that's completely erroneous.
That's right. And you know what you said, Antonio, about making you happy. I think that's part of the problem in society too right now. I want everybody to be happy. I think we should all be happy. But sometimes life just doesn't work that way. And sometimes you're going to have hard times. You'll come out on the other side better, hopefully. But I think that is using happiness maybe in an erroneous way, a hallucination way.
Yeah.
It's trying to make you happy in like a fake way. So I don't know. I'm not making a lot of sense right now.
No, you're making 100% sense.
Okay.
Yeah, you're making dollars, with all that sense.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, because, you can't get a diamond unless you put some pressure to the coal.
Touche. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And going back to biblical again, I'm sorry, I don't know why I went to scriptures,
All good. All good.
And you fall down 7 times, you get up 8. Like
Yes.
you're only it's gonna make you stronger.
Yes.
And I'm a personal believer that like everything you go through is to help make you better.
I agree 100%.
There's nothing really quote unquote negative. It may seem negative or bad at the time, but it's really building the character and the person that you need to be
That's
later
right.
on.
Well, and I mean, I really believe that God has a plan, and His plan for me, I might not know all of it. I used to joke when we had our twins, and oh my goodness, it was hard that first year. And I used to be like, God, are you sure you wanted to give these to me? Maybe it was the neighbor down the street you were meant to give these twins to. But God has a plan, and I don't think His plan is always to make our life easy. But we should always learn something from every experience, and hopefully it makes you a better person.
Yeah.
Don't get bitter. Just figure out I went through this for a reason and take the good out of whatever it was. Learn from it.
That's the hard part, taking the good out of it.
It is. And sometimes you don't see it right away.
No.
And you might walk away and be a little bitter. But then the farther away you get from the situation, sometimes, at least for me, has been like, oh, all right, I get why that happened because it made me better for this, or made me not do that, or made me learn something about myself.
Yeah. And you could be bitter for a little bit, but just, have a lollipop
agree.
after. Have a
Yeah.
lollipop after
Yes.
and, get a little happy.
And get sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
You keep on mentioning your twins, right?
Yes.
So do you carry the twin gene, or does Al carry the twin gene?
Neither. They were a huge surprise.
Oh.
So no twins on either side of the family.
Okay.
When I was 5 months pregnant, we went in for that sonogram to see what our baby looked like. And they said, well, there's baby A and there's baby B. And we're like, huh? And the nurse goes, huh? You don't know? We're like, no, what? So she left, came in. The doctor walked in and handed us double mint gum. And he's like, congratulations, you're having twins. And we were so shocked. And what an incredible blessing. The first year, like I said, was super duper hard. And what I say to all parents, new parents out there, it's going to be hard on your marriage. Hang in there. Everybody always acts like you have a baby and life is so perfect. It's not, because you're both tired and you're both on edge and you don't know what you're doing when you have your first child, or in our case, our first 2 children. But it gets better and it gets easier. Just hang in there for each other. But if you feel like you're arguing a lot when you have a child, you are, and it's okay. Yeah. It'll get better, I promise. But yeah, so we decided to stop after that because the doctor said it was just the way I ovulate. He said, you have a 50-50 chance to have twins again. And so I told my husband, if you want to try for a boy, we'll try one more time. He's like, nope, I'm good. He goes, and I heard the doctor, 50-50 chance. I said,
Having another
yes.
set of twins.
Yes.
That would have been super cool.
Oh, no.
No?
Antonio, I would have found you. You would have come lived with us.
Okay. Hey, I would teach them how to dance and party and all that
Yes.
good stuff.
And they're wonderful, 2 girls, and wonderful. They were great kids. And the thing about having twins, especially same-sex twins, is we didn't have a lot of the issues. They didn't have a lot of the social issues in school because they always had a friend. They always had a buddy. And I've always been grateful for that because we see, elementary school, high school can be so hard on kids. And as parents, if we can teach our children one thing, be kind to others. Be kind to people who are different than you, that speak differently than you, that look differently than you. I used to tell my kids, not only let me know if you're being bullied, but if I ever find out you're being a bully at school, life's going to change for you here at the Leyva house real quick.
Mom's going to be the bully.
Mom's going to be the bully, 100%.
Yes. And we believe in strict reprimand?
Yeah, yes.
To reprimand.
Yes.
The bully will reprimand you.
Oh, yeah. My girls used to tell me, Mom, you say no like it's your job. I go, it was my job when you were little. I said, because I wanted you to try not to be good human beings.
I love that. And I know it makes me think of 2 things. And are they identical twins?
They're not. They're fraternal twins.
They're fraternal twins.
Yeah.
But there used to be a popular show back in the day when I was growing up called Sister Sister.
Oh.
With Tia and Tamara.
Yes. I remember that
It
show.
reminds me of that. And when you say, be nice to other people, I have a chapter in my book, and it's called "Be Kind to Yourself," because it starts with also being kind to yourself in order to be.
That's right.
Or it might be easier to be kind to other people, and you might not be mean to yourself. But if you're kind to yourself, that means you also love yourself,
That's
which
right.
is easier to love other people.
That's right. What was that saying? Hurt people. Hurt people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I was thinking about the irony of like, if you're a twin and if I'm kind to myself, then I'm basically, if you get where I'm going with that.
Yes, I know exactly where you're going with that. Yeah, they were good to each other. They were good. They still are good sisters.
Uh-huh. Do we want to say their names?
Yes, Alexandria and Jessica. We call them Allie and Jesse.
Uh-huh. Also, they didn't have the same alliteration.
No.
Okay.
We didn't want to do that to
No?
them. I did dress them alike, though, because it was just real fun.
How could you not? How could you
Right?
avoid that?
And people would be like, they're not going to have this different, they're going to have the same personality. You're not letting them be individuals. So for all of those people who said that, I just want to let them know that one of my daughters is straight and one of my daughters is gay. So they definitely have their own individuality.
100%. How could anyone say that twins would have the same personalities? Like, when in the history have twins ever had the same personality?
Never. Yes. They're meant to be who they're meant to be. They just happen to be cooked at the same time.
That part. I'm going to move forward. I was going to say some other stuff, but I'll move forward. I'll move forward. Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. But I believe you spoke about, and maybe it's already happening, about giving a TV station at KVCR, getting, because I think before it was just radio at the time. I saw an interview, but one of the visions was to get a TV station at KVCR.
Yes.
Is that in progress? Is that happening? Has it happened?
Still a dream.
Okay.
So, I would like people to turn on Channel 24 in the morning or in the evening to get their news versus 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, because I feel like we could do a better job of covering the Inland Empire. But to do that, we'd have to have a news station it's set up in the studio. We'd build another station out back so that the students could still come in and learn, and then also we could do other programming there. So it would take quite a bit of funding. So we'll get there one day. But I think that would be very powerful for the Inland Empire to have an actual news station that covers the Inland Empire.
Yeah, definitely. The primary goal for the TV station would be news first,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay.
100% news.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then other programs related would come through that way as well?
Yes.
It makes me think because, and people have brought this to my attention, that there's actually a lot of money in the Inland Empire.
Really?
Well, certain people have certain.
Okay.
If you reach out to certain people, there's some money. Someone told me like, "Hey, Riverside has a lot of money." That's what someone told me.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay.
And I would say this. When I was in the Senate, Senator Ben Allen, who's still in the Senate, we got elected at the same time. He represents Santa Monica and the surrounding districts. Wealthiest Senate district in the state of California. People could come to his fundraisers and walk in, write a max check. At the time, it was like $4,200, just a regular person. For me, when I did fundraisers, if someone in the Inland Empire wrote me a check for $500, that was a big deal. But people didn't really have the wherewithal, and I don't still think have the wherewithal to write. Now it's a $4,900 max check. So after 8 years of being elected here, I never saw a lot of wealth. What I really think I see in the Inland Empire is people who work hard and people who are doing the best they can for their families and don't always have the opportunities that sometimes other people have. Opportunities bring wealth, and I've always felt that was my job, was to try and find opportunities for people so that then they could go to school, get a good job, provide for their family, build generational wealth. But I personally haven't seen a lot of wealth in the Inland Empire. There are individuals for sure, but it should be more. There should be more people that have wealth, more people that are doing better in the Inland Empire.
Gotcha. And I guess it's just such a huge landmass.
It is.
I guess you would have to be like intentional to reach out to certain people, I guess, like that live in Palm Springs.
Right. Palm Springs probably has more wealth than other areas in the Inland Empire for sure.
Yeah. And okay. And that's so interesting because it makes sense when you say, $500 would be like a big deal.
It was a big deal.
And that makes me think about going back to what we were talking about the current administration and the funding taken away. Like that funding could help be used towards the programming to help make things better for the community, because since the community doesn't have that much disposable income, I guess we call it.
That's exactly what it is. Yes.
And those type of things would help the community. Wow. We're having fun here, folks. I hope we're having fun. Are we having fun, Connie?
We're having a great time.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did you ever say that you were a fan of students going to school for technical career pathways?
Yes.
Are you still a fan?
I love career technical education, CTE. One of the first bills I did with another senator, Senator Mike McGuire, was to bring, I think, $60 million to the state for career technical education. I think that not everyone is meant to go to college. Not everyone has the desire to go to college. And some people want to work with their hands. And let me tell you, you become a plumber, a carpenter, an electrician, you could take that skill anywhere in the country, in the world, pretty much, and a little different in other countries with electricity. But you have a skill that no one can ever take away from you. And I think we have not done a good job in education in presenting both paths for students. It's like for a while it was all about career technical education years ago. Then it became all about everybody going to college. Why not make sure students who participate in career technical education don't think it's less than. Don't think that, oh, well, this is where I'm going. I'm not going to, a 4-year university or whatnot. And community colleges. I have always been a huge fan of community college. I started at Mount Sac in Walnut. So having KVCR sit on a community college campus is like really a win for me. And it's awesome because that's the other thing. I remember when our girls were in school, it was always, the parents, where's your child going to college? Where's your it became more about the parents' bragging rights, yes, than what was really best for the child. But that's on all of us, right? We as society need to make it cool to go to community college, make it cool to go to get a career technical education certificate. And then if you want to go to a 4-year school, that's cool too. What I worry about is I think that education has become a cottage industry, and our students are graduating from school with so much debt that they're in trouble. They start with $100,000 in debt. How do you dig out of that? And then housing's expensive, gas is everything's expensive. So we need to do better by our young people.
Yeah, and CTE. Not the brain trauma folks, but is basically trades, right?
Yeah, it basically, absolutely, yeah.
And when you mentioned about the parents, being snooty, as I can say,
oh, for sure.
It reminds me. I think there was a a case that was happening when they caught a bunch of parents
Oh,
like
yes.
paying for their students to
Rich parents, let's be clear.
yes,
Yeah.
very rich parents paying for their
Yep.
kids to get into Ivy League schools and stuff
Yes.
like that.
And that is a huge fail as a parent. I mean, my God, what are you teaching your child? I remember one of our daughters said, Mom, I want to go to Harvard. And I said, Allie, if you get into Harvard, we will find a way to pay for it. And I was pretty confident that wasn't going to happen, but I also didn't want to burst her bubble and,
Yeah.
let her think she can do it and try. But yeah, to buy your way in for your child, that says so much about you as a parent and how insecure you are.
And it made me think about, well, I guess the other side I was looking at the aspect, which is like, it's a social thing, right? A social class
for
thing,
sure.
right? So like
Yes.
if I can get it's in my
You get
perspective,
bragging rights.
if I can get my kid into this Ivy League school, then they have a better chance in maybe connecting and getting a better opportunities because they went to Harvard or USC.
I would like to think, yes, that's probably part of it, but I also think it's bragging rights.
The ego?
Yeah, it's the ego. Parents, be proud of your kids for who they are. And to me, the most important thing was my girls would have life skills because I said, I could drop dead tomorrow and I want to make sure you don't need me. You like me and want to hang out with me and your dad, but you can take care of yourself. So life skills, being a good human being and having a good work ethic. That's what was important to me. If Allie had gotten into Harvard, that would have been great for her because that would have been her dream. But I think parents lack confidence in themselves, and so they want to live vicariously through their children.
Yeah.
Also through sports.
Okay, yeah, it's another thing.
Yeah.
That makes me think of young Miss beauty pageants, like when they have like their 5-year-old girl through beauty pageants. That's what it makes me think of.
I think it's very much like that. I mean, why would you want your 5-year-old child to be dressed like that with makeup like that? Dear God.
Like, hey, she's good. I actually met like a 5-year-old influencer, and
A 5-year-old influencer. That's awful.
yeah, and you see behind the scenes, and mom's like, hey, smile, do
Yeah.
this, wear that, do this, and
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, this is. Does she even want this?
Right, exactly. Let kids be kids.
Yeah.
I was over at our daughter's house last night. We were having dinner over there and just seeing my 2 granddaughters playing and in the backyard swinging and playing with grass and getting dirty. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it's all about.
You like this?
Just having fun.
Got you. Is it all girls?
No, the daughter, Allie and John have 2 girls, and then my daughter and her wife, Jesse and Sam, they have 2 boys.
Okay.
So yeah, so they joke about who's going to be the tiebreaker, but I think they're both done. So it's girls 2, boys 2.
So everyone's just going with 2? They're not,
I think so. Yeah.
Gotcha. Because I was going to say, I was like, poor Al. He's just surrounded by
know,
just
yes.
girls, all girls. Like, wow.
Yes, and girl dogs.
And girl dogs. Like, man, it's like, Al, like, he's like, who you can play golf with?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I always say that's why he coaches baseball. He gets so much estrogen at home. He gets his testosterone there on the ball field.
Gotcha. A little break.
Yes.
Oh, man, I lost my train of thought. I hate when that happens.
Sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault. It's so many thoughts going in, so I'll just keep moving.
It came back.
A little bit. It's a different idea, though, but
Okay.
I'll keep moving with it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did you, as a senator, were you running mostly for education? Right?
Actually, not.
No, okay.
When I ran because I wanted to make sure I could be in the room when legislation was being done around good jobs and good wages, pensions, and health care, because those are the things I had fought for when I was in the labor movement. And then I got elected and I got put on the education committee and realized I had a super big passion for education and students and our young. I like K-12 the best because what I used to say for my colleagues that loved higher ed, I'm like, if we don't do right by them in K-12, they're never going to get to higher ed. And they're like, oh yeah, I guess that's kind of true. So I really didn't run for that. I didn't run on that. But then when I got there, I'm like, my God, there's a need here. And then I had a real passion for it. Also, a real passion for women's issues. I kind of thought when I ran in 2014, we were in a good space and women were doing better. And then I got there and realized, holy cow, there's still so many issues for women. We're just trying to work and, not get sexually harassed and have affordable childcare so we can go to work. And then also the environment. I became very passionate about the environment.
Like the EPA?
Yeah. So I went on something called the Toxic Tour the first month I was elected, and it was an organization in Riverside called CCAEJ, and they started in Pomona and took me all through my district, ending in San Bernardino, and showed me all the toxic places in the district. And what I learned real quick that day was that we do real bad stuff to poor people. We put all the toxic stuff near poor people. And so that just set me on my journey of trying to pass legislation that would help people who were poor and didn't have a good living environment. One of them was passing a law that says big rigs have to have a smog check. So we all have to do that. They didn't. And so in 10 years, the bill was passed 4 years ago, it'll be like taking 350,000 big rigs off the road, because now they have to, the diesel trucks have to have a smog check, and if they're polluting, they have to fix that problem.
Ooh. What's some of the other things that you notice that they're giving to poor folks or putting poor folks around that many people may not know?
Train stations. So like the big train interchange in San Bernardino, the folks that live around there, they all have to have air purifiers in their homes. They built a whole, and most of them don't because they are poor and, is it food or an air purifier? But they have a community center. I remember we visited a couple times, and it was a safe haven for the kids. They could go to this community center and all the air was purified. Building like toxic fumes from gas or natural or petroleum. There were some places in Pomona where, and what would usually happen is there would be homes there, already there, people living there, and then they'd come in and build a warehouse or an auto repair shop. And it was something that wasn't, the people didn't know when they bought their house that could happen to them. And rich people, they don't do that in Beverly Hills. They don't do it in the wealthier parts of the state. And if they try to, those people have time. They can go to city council meetings. They can go to planning meetings. Poor people are working, hard to just put food on the table and a roof over their head. So they didn't have time to go and fight those.
Yeah. Or maybe they don't even know that they're
they don't even know 100%.
That they're in a toxic environment.
Yes. Very true. That is very true.
Yes. Like so many things. I remember hearing that San Bernardino or the Inland Empire has one of the most poorest air qualities.
The worst.
Right?
The worst. Mm-hmm.
The worst?
Yes.
In California?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think the worst in California, and the Central Valley is also really bad as well. But we are the worst in California, and then also I think one of the worst in the nation. But
Wow.
and it's like I tell people, warehouses don't pollute. It's the trucks that come in and out every single day. Those are what are polluting.
Okay. So I guess going electric with those would be a lot better.
A lot better. And they're getting there, but then there's the problem when you change administrations and you have an administration who doesn't care about those things. They don't care about regulations. They don't care about making sure that people are breathing, clean air, changing over from gas and diesel to electric. So, we'll take a lot of steps back in the next 4 years.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, we have to go. We're gonna go. We're gonna go a little political because you mentioned something really quick. When I was watching, I think not Trump's inauguration, but when he was a couple of days after he was in the I want to say, is it the Senate or was it the House, when he gave his speech to both sides of the aisle.
Oh, right. Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was very unprofessional of the left side or the Democratic side, how they just sat the whole time and just had their signs.
Yes.
Because in my opinion, I think, even though you may disagree with your boss, who's not your boss,
right.
I think the best thing is try to see how you can find a middle ground.
Yeah.
And if you're just being so
I have mixed feelings.
Okay.
Because I do believe in respect, but respect is earned, not given. And I don't think that the president we currently have shows respect to anyone. And I think that, we can go back to when Barack Obama was elected, and that was my president. He will
Okay.
always be my president. I worked on his drafting committee. I was one of 20 people in the country picked to work on that.
What's drafting for people?
Is the drafting platform? It's what would dictate his presidency. So we talked about foreign policy. We talked about labor standards. We talked about how we could rebuild the middle class. It's just like it's something that he takes and his staff takes, and we're supposed to be representative of the United States and what we think would be helpful. So it was a huge honor to get to be the labor voice on that. But when he was elected, Mitch McConnell said that we will make him a one-term president, and we will not pass anything that he wants to pass. And so I'm never a tit for tat person. And when I was in the Senate, I worked with everybody, or at least I tried to, because finding common ground, I think, is super important. But I think what we found when Barack Obama was elected, and this is 100% Connie Leyva's opinion, is that people on the right said, "Oh my God, how did we let a person of color become the president of the United States?" And they wanted to do everything they could to make sure he wasn't successful. But in spite of that, he did succeed, and he did do some great things. Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, is landmark achievement that has helped millions of people. And as someone who used to negotiate medical benefits, I know how important that was for people. When I was in the labor movement, we became a navigator at my local union, and we signed up 500 people for Obamacare. And to see people come in, Antonio, to sign up, it was obvious they hadn't had medical care in years, decades. And I think healthcare is a human right. If you're a human being, you should have access to affordable healthcare. So the fact that he did that and persevered, even though he was so persecuted as a president, really made me respect him even more. But I think that we saw then where the right was going to go, and they have always tried to get rid of Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. I love it when people go, "Oh, I hate Obamacare, but I like the Affordable Care Act." Hello.
People say that?
Oh God, all the time.
No.
Yes. And so, but that's fine. Let them say that. But I think that we saw people on the right decide that it got even uglier than it's been. And I think we've been on a downhill slope ever since then. And again, I think respect is earned. And I don't know what the current president has done to earn my respect. And I think a lot of leaders in Congress felt the same way. And so, like I said, I have mixed emotions about it. I think that we should all try and rally around our president. But I think this is his second term. He showed us what he was like in his first term, and he's even worse in his second term. So, yeah, I have mixed emotions, but I don't know if I would have stood, because he has not earned my respect. When I was elected, my job was to earn people's respect. And sometimes that was just by listening to them. We didn't always agree. I remember I had a whole group of anti-vaxxers that protested one of my events, and we sat down and talked to them. And I said, "Listen, we may not agree on everything, but I want to hear what you're saying. I want to hear why you feel the way you feel." And so, having been elected and knowing that not everyone who I represented voted for me, but I still represented them, I think he owes us that same respect, and I haven't seen it.
Got you. And he's been moving really quick in the past 5 months, less than 5 months? Yeah, less than 5 months.
Yes. Doing things that are harming the least among us.
Yeah, the executive orders have been
Fast and furious.
Yeah, definitely. Not the movie, folks. Not the movie at all.
Right.
And we're here, folks. So we're gonna keep going down this road. And if you don't feel comfortable answering these questions, Connie, just say I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm good.
I guess you have no constituents or lobbyists to abide by right now, right?
But I would tell you that Manny could tell you that when I was in office, you got the straight facts from Connie Leyva, no matter what.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Straight, no chaser.
Straight, no chaser.
So a lot of people have been talking about, Trump's not running the White House. It's Elon. What's your thoughts on Elon Musk involvement with the White House and the presidency.
It's just wrong.
Okay.
I mean, you as a president, you get to pick whoever you want your advisors to be. Yeah, sure, no problem. But to bring someone in who isn't elected to be just slashing jobs at Doge, I think it's reckless. And I don't think it was necessarily Trump's idea. But when you donate $75 million to someone's campaign, there's going to be a payback. And so, I'm sure Mr. Elon, who's cutting all of these government programs and agencies, but he has received so much funding from the federal government, from the state of California, to run Tesla and to make sure that his electric vehicles. He got so many loans and subsidies and grants from both the state and federal government, and then for him to say there's waste, fraud, and abuse. You know what? Everybody can be a little meaner, or not meaner, a little leaner. But we're cutting people who have institutional knowledge, and we're going to see the real brunt of what Elon is doing in probably, I would say, the next few years and the next decade. We won't see it immediately. We are seeing some of it immediately, but I think it was a bad idea. But when somebody gives you that much money, you owe them big.
Yeah, that's kind of how it works, right?
That's how it works. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there was some sort of a conversation about, hey, I'll give you this money, but this is what I expect in return.
And that's kind of how it works, right?
Yeah. Yes and no.
Okay.
For me, that's why I didn't take money from certain entities, because you know what? I knew I would never vote the way Chevron wanted me to vote. I was never going to vote the way Big Tobacco wanted me to vote. Same with Walmart. So it made my fundraising a little harder. I had to work a little harder, but that's okay. Ethics can be hard, but you know what? You sleep good at night.
I was going to say that you can sleep good at night.
Yep, you sleep good at night.
The integrity. Wow, and it makes me. So do you think Doge is like a made up thing?
For sure.
Okay.
Oh, for sure.
Gotcha.
It's, and we understand. I know Republicans have never liked big government. That's been one of the rubs between Democrats and Republicans. Okay, that's fine. Go in with a scalpel, not with a sledgehammer, or what did he have, like a chainsaw? You know what? Do it the right way, and say, okay, this is what we see the problem is in whatever this certain government agency is. Oh, well, let's make it better. But just laying people off and getting rid of people, that doesn't make things better. It just makes holes all over our government.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard today that 1,000 people from FEMA are taking the buyout. Okay, great. So what happens when your house is hit by a tornado or, a hurricane or whatnot, and there's nobody at FEMA to come and help you?
What's the buyout?
Yeah. Like the buyouts he's been offering in other agencies. I don't know what the actual dollar amount is, but that's one of the things he's done, and the different agencies has offered people buyouts to retire.
Wow. Having this conversation with you, it's making me really think that UBI is really around the corner.
UBI.
Universal Basic Income.
Oh. Well, Donald Trump would not support that. He would, if they want to cut Social Security, something that we put money into, they're not going to give free money to people. That's the way they would look at it. I've seen some studies on universal basic income. It has potential. I mean, in my opinion, it could work, but you're never going to see that out of the Trump administration.
You don't think so?
Oh God, no.
Because I know Elon was one of the people that said that we're going to have that world, a universal basic income, and so it just makes me think, like, if jobs are being taken away, and if robotics and AI is coming in to replace the jobs, and more people are probably going to be less inclined to learn new skills, then what's our other option besides, hey, like no one's going to want to work, so here's.
So you and I, Antonio,
Yes.
are rational people
Okay.
who think about those that are less than us and think about poor people. And if they don't have a job, what are we going to do? How do we help them? This is not how this administration thinks. They do not care about poor people. Poor people are the scourge of society as far as they're concerned. I think about some of the people that are interviewed that supported this administration, and they're not people that Donald Trump would ever go to a party with. They're not people he would ever invite over to the White House. So I think people want to believe the best in people. People want to believe the lies he told, that he was here for the people. He was going to help people. But those of us who have been around the block and have seen leaders like him before, he spins a great tale. But we have in the first administration, he didn't help anybody. He didn't. I mean, Biden had to come in and clean up his mess. So I hope for the best, but plan for the worst.
Yeah.
Because I do think things are going to get worse for the American people. Things are going to be fine. If you're wealthy, you got nothing to worry about. You're going to be A-okay. But if you're middle class or poor, life's going to get real hard. Those $12 a dozen eggs are going to keep going. My gas hasn't gone down. Eggs haven't gone down. And that's what he promised. I was talking to one of the checkers at the grocery store the other day, and she said, Connie, you were right. I go, well, I was? What was I right about? She goes, you told me that if Donald Trump got elected, my eggs weren't going to get cheaper and gas wasn't going to go down. I said,
It's gone the opposite,
gone
technically.
the opposite. Yeah. Could you imagine if that happened with Joe Biden? People would have filleted him. But people just want to give Donald Trump a pass every time. I don't understand that.
Yeah, Sleepy Joe, I guess they were calling him
Yeah,
at the
Sleepy
time.
Joe. I'll take Sleepy Joe any day over a rapist and a.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's been convicted of rape and he has 34 felonies. Never in my wildest dreams would I think that would be the person in the White House.
But he didn't get convicted, right, for any of the felonies? He's just been charged?
He was convicted of 34 felonies.
He got convicted for that?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
He's a convicted felon.
Gotcha. In the White House.
In the White House. Nifty. Rapist in the White House. Nifty.
Wow. He should make a rap record. Just joking.
I don't think he has the talent to do it.
Okay, yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, you mentioned that people like you and I think about the well-being of poor people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what do you think, in your opinion, in your wisdom, and, being in the Senate, what do you think is going to be like the outcome for these people that I'm saying, like, that are not thinking about, learning a new skill and doing these things? What do you think the future is going to be holding for these?
Well, if we have more robotics and that causes people to lose jobs, if we have more AI and that causes people to lose jobs, people are going to be scrambling. They're going to be looking for ways to make money. And some people, for some people, they're ingenious and they'll find a way. But what about your average person with an average IQ who had a job that maybe they were never going to run the company, which is fine. I think that's the other thing we forget. We need regular average workers.
Yep.
People want to get up. They want to go to work. They want to make enough money to have a good life. They don't want to be the president of the company, the CEO of the company. That's okay. We need you. And that's a good life too. And that used to be like union jobs, right? You could have a job without going to college, and you'd have a job that would pay the bills, give you medical benefits and a pension, and you had a good life. But as we get rid of those jobs, where do people go? What do they do? Where do they go to work? And then, the people who don't like unemployment, and they think that people, shouldn't be on unemployment. They shouldn't be, getting free money from the government. Well, if you lose your job, what are you going to do? You're going to file for unemployment. That's what I think about all these cuts that Musk is making in all these agencies. Hello, that's going to kill our deficit, right? Because these people are going to be collecting unemployment.
Yeah. And is unemployment like an infinite
We all
pull?
pay into it, but I mean, it could go bankrupt. I'm sure. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to speak intelligently.
Yeah.
But it just makes sense that if people don't have a job and they're collecting unemployment, that's government money.
Yeah. It's it makes
I
me
just don't think Doge was well thought out.
And I remember hearing someone say like who's the person that's double checking on what Doge is doing? Like who is there?
Yeah, no one.
They're which is, if you want to talk about power and freedom, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. And Elon Musk is the perfect person, right? Because when Donald Trump tires of him, which he will, because he tires of everyone, he just goes back to running one of his companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting more funding and
getting more funding from the government.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shout out to you, Elon. You're going to be best friends, man. Make money like that. Yes, we talked about how you learned about being in... Your intention wasn't to be involved in education, but then it eventually did. So what's your current thoughts on the educational system today? And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but did the Trump administration destroy the Department of Education?
Yeah, eliminated the Department of Education.
Yeah.
So, you know what? In California, we'll be okay because we have something called Prop 98. And so a percentage of our budget every year has to go to funding K through 12, funding for K through 12. It's a big chunk of our budget. But for lots of states, and the irony is most of them are red states, their budget comes from the federal government. So when we cut the Department of Education and that funding, then these states are left to their own devices. Mississippi, Alabama, the poor states are left to their own devices to figure out how to educate these kids. You know, I think that there's a bigger reason for this. It's the reason why we're not teaching history and how we're trying to whitewash history. We want a dumb electorate. We don't want an informed electorate. We don't want people who are smart, people who, wait a minute, I want to question that because I don't think that makes sense to me. And how do you do that? Through education. And you start young. You start when they're in kindergarten and you make sure they don't know any of our history as the United States. Some of our history is pretty uncomfortable, right? But guess what? If we don't learn about our history, we will continue to repeat our history and still be bad to people. So I think there's more to it than just cutting the funding. I think that it's a long-term strategy to dumb down America.
Wow, and we're already pretty dumb too.
Yes, we are.
All right, critically thinking. That's when you're gonna start seeing people chewing on cans and like goats. Wow. And I guess if you're in power, why would you want to give up your power if you can keep people dumb? That would never challenge your power.
Yes, it's true.
Okay.
And power is a funny thing. When I ran for office, I did it because I thought I could help people. It never occurred to me that I would run for office because it would benefit Connie Leyva. And it didn't because, you know, I had a job. I took a pay cut to run for the Senate. There's no pension in the Senate. So I gave up my pension that I was accruing with UFCW. I had 20 years accrued, but I stopped accruing. I paid more for my health care. I had to live away from home. But for me, I thought I could make the world a little bit better place, that I could do some good. What I learned, not a lot of people think like that. People like power. They like perceived power. And you're right. They don't want to give it up once they have it. And that's a shame. People should not be in love with power. They should be in love with the idea that they can use that power to make people's lives better.
Yeah. Well, that's a nice way of looking at it, right?
Yeah.
An optimistic way. And
yes.
I realize as I get older that, and I think it's natural for people care about their self-interest for self-survival and self-sufficiency. And maybe the next line out is my family.
Yeah.
Everybody else, like, why should I care about you? You're not my family, not my bloodline.
Right. Yeah.
Why should I care? But I guess the bigger holistic way of looking at it is like, I'm not just going to care about me. I want to care about the betterment of humanity, about the planet, about the people I'm living amongst.
Yes.
Because like you said earlier, I want to leave the place better than what I came into.
Exactly. Leave wherever you work better than you found it.
Yeah.
Leave your family better than what you were born into, and leave your community and the world a little bit better.
Yeah. But you know, if your community is small and your world is small and what you consider your family small, then everything else can be exclusionary.
But if everybody does their part, I always say, if you have a little, give a little. If you have a lot, give a lot.
Yeah.
If everybody did that, we would have a better world. You know, when I was the Booster Club president in my daughter's high school, and we had one guy, and he was always so mad that some of the parents would just write a check and that they didn't come and volunteer. And I said, they're busy. They're writing a check. People who can't write the check, they have the time and they're volunteering. So I said, to me, that's the best of both worlds. So everybody needs to find what they can do. And as a leader, wherever you lead, figure out how people can contribute. Everybody has a skill that they can contribute. Our job as leaders is to figure out what that is and help people to do it. And we'll all be better off because of it.
Gotcha. And be able to identify who is what.
Yes.
I think that's a skill in itself, being able to identify people's skills and how you can use their skills to help make the organization better.
Better, absolutely.
That is a skill. That's hard.
And that takes a leader who knows they don't know everything, and be okay with that. You know, I know what my skills are, and I know what I don't know, and I'm okay with that because I don't need to know everything. Hire people and let them shine. Let them do their good work.
That's how you run a good business too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
What are, talking about skills, what are your skills?
I think that I'm a good communicator.
Okay.
I think I'm very decisive. I think that I'm an excellent problem solver and generally a nice person.
I like that. I love that. What's one of the biggest things that you learned from being in the Senate?
Oh, I feel like I learned so much, Antonio. I walked away because, like I said, you have to know so much about so many things. But I think I learned a negative thing that I learned is that people aren't in it for the right reasons, that people don't always vote their conscience. They vote what they think is going to help them get ahead, which always hurt my heart because I didn't vote like that. But then I think what I also learned is there were also a lot of really good people in politics. And you know who most of them were? Staff. The people who staffed electeds were the good people. They were in it for the right reasons. And they wanted to help see that elected person shine. They wanted to help that elected person do good work. They were the ones that read all the bills. They were the ones that would meet when you couldn't meet. So I'll always have great respect for staff.
I love that. I had Danny Tillman on here, and really great guy. And I think he was running for Senate at one point in time, but he mentioned that he got a phone call, 3 different phone calls from 3 different people saying that not to run
Oh,
and that they're not going to allow him to be in.
so these people were saying, I won't support you and my organization or whatever won't support you.
Something along the lines of the higher ups
Oh,
are not going to allow you to come in. Have you, we're going to go a little deeper, folks. Have you heard of any things about, people with power and influence in the political firms was saying like, hey, this will not be allowed. This person will not be allowed in politics. This person will be allowed, and they will have to follow these X, Y, and Z.
you know what? I never saw anything that nefarious for
Okay.
sure. When I was talking about running, and I was talking to then Senator Torres, now Congresswoman Torres, she said, "I'm sitting here with leadership. They hear our conversation. They want you to run. They said they'll clear the field for you," which I said, well, I want to go home and talk to my favorite husband, see how he feels about this. But I do think there are times when leadership says, yes, this is the person we want, and we're going to help that person. I never saw anybody be told, we're not going to allow you to run. I had hard conversations with people who wanted to run, and I would say to them, okay, where are you going to raise your money? What's your platform? Who's going to support you? Where are you going to find your votes? Because there's things that people need to, and I always ask people, what's your path to victory? Because people always say, I want to run for this, I want to run for that. Great, what's your path to victory? So making people really look inwardly to see if they could win, I think is really important. But, they are not going to let you win. I never saw that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave it a really interesting. Was it Congress that he was running for? Because is Congress and Senate the same thing, or is it different
No.
things?
So you've got state assembly and state senate, and then you've got U.S. senators. Every state has 2 of those, and then you have Congress, and every state has a certain number of Congress people depending on the size of their state.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So he gave a really interesting story, and he said he never decided to go again after the conversations that he got.
And I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I
Yeah.
just never saw it.
Yeah. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
What was I going to say? 2 things. You said find your victory. Is that what you said? What did you say?
Oh, right now I said path to victory.
Path to victory. What is
Yes.
that? Can you give us an example of what that
So,
means?
like when I decided to run, what was my path to victory? I knew I had to raise about $1 million, and I knew I was going to start with labor because that's where I originated from. That's where my roots were in labor. And then, how are you going to raise your money? I knew I could count on labor because they knew, who I was, what I'd been for, 20 years prior to running for office. And then I knew that I had to knock on a lot of doors. So I had to have a good field team. And so that was my path to victory. I figured if I could do those 3 things, I could win.
Okay, that makes sense. And for anybody of, I guess, of any age, what would you recommend for them if they wanted to run into politics?
I would say start by volunteering on a campaign, a city council race, a school board race, a Senate assembly race. Get to understand what you have to do, because I think people, they look at right here, the top. They don't look at the path to get there and the mountain you have to climb to get there. So if you want to run for office, make sure you know the work that you need to do, and then you also get to understand what it looks like to run for office, meaning you have to know how to cut turf. You have to know how to walk precincts. Cutting turf is cutting the precincts you're going to walk. So, we might say we're going to walk in Pomona today. And so we want to break it up into having people knock on 50 doors. I was always more into helping people be successful when they walked for me than saying, there's 500 houses, hit as many as you can. Because then people don't feel like they're successful. Instead, we would cut our turf up into smaller bite-sized pieces, if you will. And then that way people could be like, Connie, I knocked on 50 doors for you. People felt successful. They would come back. They would help again. So go volunteer on a campaign, because you'll learn. I also knew after volunteering on many campaigns when I ran for office how I wanted to do it. I saw what worked. I saw what didn't work. So get involved. Go see what it looks like to actually run for office.
Actually, do you think certain and also you're setting them up for success?
Yeah.
Right, which is good management skills, good leadership
Yes.
skills. Do you think there's a certain personality or mindset that's best for running in politics?
I do. I think you need to, you have to have someone who's open-minded. You can't be closed-minded. We met with everybody when I was in the Senate, people who I thought, I'm like, I have nothing in common with this person. Guess what? Sometimes you learn a lot from those people. So be open-minded, be willing to change if you learn new facts, not just because someone told you, but you learn new facts, be willing to change. And then I think you have to have like an outgoing personality, because you're going to talk to and meet so many people, and you have to kind of like it, right? You have to, I love people. I love hearing from people. I love talking to people. So I think if you don't love that, you can't not get elected, but it's going to be harder for you, I think.
Yeah, so beware introverts.
Yeah, no, well, maybe, yeah. Just if you're an introvert, we're going to teach you how to get in touch with your inner
Extrovert?
extrovert.
Got
Yes.
You could be an introvert at home, but
Yes.
extrovert when
At
you're
work.
Yes,
Yes.
I love that. Mrs. Connie, thank you so much for being with us and talking with us. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Would you like to play another game with us?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, this one's called Quick Slip.
Okay.
So what it means is I'm going to give you a word,
Okay.
and I want the first thing that comes to your mind
Okay.
to come right back out.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
All right, Quick Slip. Here we
Okay.
go. Family,
Love.
fun,
Oh, what fun. I think amusement park, but I don't love amusement parks, so I don't know why that came to my mind.
hey, we'll go with it. Inland Empire,
Potential.
Eleanor D. Roosevelt,
Courage.
media,
Be wary.
men,
I don't know. What kind of men? Half of 50% of the population. I don't know.
gotcha. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep. Mom's Mabley,
Who is that?
good place to go.
Okay.
Got some homework now. Joy,
Happiness.
Jolly Ranchers,
Sour.
greatness,
Potential. People. I don't know. That one, nothing.
preparation,
Important.
goals,
Important.
jollof rice,
Sounds good.
Goliath,
David.
Marilyn Monroe,
Icon.
Jesus,
Icon.
leftovers,
Delicious.
forgotten,
But seen.
forgiveness,
Good.
impact,
Important.
womb,
Life.
wealth,
Management.
everlasting,
Joy.
one.
2.
And that is Quick Slip. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Not too bad, right?
No, not too bad at all.
We talked I guess this question's coming up more. Are you a woman of faith?
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
If you had one question to ask God, the creator, that you can get an answer back, what question would that be?
Why can't people be kinder to each other? Why are human beings so bad to each other? How do we create peace on earth? It's
Yeah.
all on us, right?
Hmm.
He may have created us, but it's on us to do good with what he gave us. So I don't know if it's his to answer, right?
Hmm. It's the free will, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, and I guess I can still ask you, um, what in your opinion, what do you think the answer would be to your question?
That it's in all of us and that we're the problem. He's not the problem.
Hmm.
He's given us the tools. And we've either chosen to ignore him or ignore the tools.
Yeah. Or think that it's easier to be cruel than it is to be nice.
Yes. I think it goes back to that perception I said earlier that being nice is a weakness or being kind is weakness.
Hmm.
And people think that being mean shows strength and, you're a tough guy or tough gal.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I agree with you. In my opinion, I think it is up to us. Like it's
Mhm.
up to us. God gave us the tools and the free will,
and the free will.
and so it's up to us to make that decision. It's like, you know what, I'm gonna be better to mankind, womankind,
Yes.
earthkind.
Yep.
I think we mentioned, or you mentioned, that KVCR is membership funded.
Yes.
So, can you give people advice on how to find funding
Yes.
for people who are trying to do their own programs and stuff like that? Any advice on how to get funding?
So funding is again about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So we are member driven. So you can go to kvcr.org and you can give to KVCR if you want to keep public media alive. But if you yourself are looking for funding, you can look for grants. You can do fundraisers. We do a golf tournament. We just started. We're having our second one later this year. There's a number of ways you can raise money. Find people, whatever you're raising money for, find people who believe in what you're doing. Find an investor, so to speak, someone who wants to help you succeed. I think I'd need to know what the person was trying to generate money for, and then I might have some better options as to how to raise that money.
Mm-hmm. You have to be creative with it.
Got to be
Right.
creative, absolutely.
It reminds me of Kevin O'Leary, who's known as Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank. He says, I look the most best problem solvers are the creative people.
I think that's exactly right. Yes, totally agree.
And I think he also says like he hires people who are creative because they can help.
Problem solve.
Yes.
Yep.
With their
Absolutely.
creativity, which I
Yes.
find that super amazing. What's something that most people don't know about you? Maybe even close friends, family members. What's one thing that most people don't know about you?
That I was a ballerina.
Wow.
I danced at a little studio in Ontario when probably from the time I was 10 to 18. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you still like ballets?
I like, no, it was, you know what, it was, I wouldn't go to a ballet. Maybe I would go to a ballet nutcracker or something, but it was a wonderful time in my life to keep me focused because I was kind of bored in school and it gave me something to work towards and work on and learning what I needed to learn so that I could go on point. And it was very good. It just helped me to put structure in my life and be disciplined. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I keep on hearing how the arts make people disciplined, helps with discipline in so many ways.
Very much so.
And doesn't on point hurt the toes?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, they bleed. And
Okay.
I remember my dad used to say, "We're paying for this?"
We're paying for this self-inflicted pain?
Yes, exactly.
We're making our daughter a masochist at such an early
Yes.
age?
But I decided not to become a ballerina because most of them at the time were chain smokers and anorexic. And I didn't want to smoke and I like to eat. So I'm like, okay, I better go to college.
Got you. Good change, right?
Good change,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow. Imagine Miss Connie as a ballerina
Yeah.
on stage. Wow, that would have been a whole different life.
Whole different life.
Whole different
Yes.
world.
Whole different world. I wouldn't have met my favorite husband.
Yeah. You had met your unfavorite husband
That's
at that
right.
time.
See, it could have been bad.
Wow. Wow. Can you tell us some of the current projects that you were working on?
At KVCR?
In anything. Yeah.
I painted our guest bedroom, last weekend, so I'm going to finish that this weekend personally. And then at KVCR, we're working on funding for our season 3 of Inland Edition. We'll start filming that in June, we believe. And we're looking for funding for a show to. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Always looking for funding, always looking for new shows to do. I would like to take IE Latino Voices and Black Perspectives, IE, from a radio show to a TV show, a half-hour program where you get a little more in depth and interview more people. So working on that, and then just always working on being a more efficient operation, and how do we bring in more money so we can hire more staff, so we can do more, be more in the community. So that, again, what I love about the job, there's always something new.
I love that. And I remember you mentioned there's a show where you're educating the community on the different roles for different, like mayor, councilmen, and stuff
Inland
like that.
Edition.
How is that going on? Have people been learning more, you think?
I hope so. So that was
Okay.
so you can go back and watch it online. But that was our first season of Inland Edition. So we had 20 episodes, and we interviewed statewide constitutional officers, mayors, city council, school board. So it was, I loved it, but I love politics. So if you don't love politics, you should still watch it, because you can learn about what you can expect or should expect from your elected officials.
Yes, amen. And I think, going back to the education system, and I'll be quick, I think the things that people need to know is about what's happening politically in their life, and then financially. And
Yes.
then I think health is also a good one.
Financial awareness, financial literacy, huge, huge, huge.
Yeah.
I wish before I left the Senate we had got that into the curriculum for the state of California.
Yeah. Maybe that could be another good show for KVCR.
There you go. It sure would be.
All right.
Yes, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mrs. Leyva, thank you so much for being on the Empire. Let's say 100 years pass by,
Yes.
250 years pass by.
Yes.
What would you like your empire to look like 250 years from now?
I would like everyone to have a job that pays the bills. I would like all children to get to go to school, childcare, good childcare, so moms could go to work, and people were happy, and people lived in an inland empire that had more trees, had better air quality, and was more sustainable for everybody.
Awesome. Great empire.
Great empire.
Yes. Mrs. Connie, thank you so much for being on the Empire.
Thank you.
Can you please let everybody know how they can find you, reach you, support you, fun things that's going on at KVCR? Can you
Absolutely.
let everybody know how they can do that?
First, thank you for having me, Antonio. I appreciate it. It was fun chatting with you. You can find us at kvcr.org. We are on the Valley College campus. If you go to kvcr.org, you'll find everything you need to know about me and about the station. But I also invite people to stop by and let me give them a tour. People are always impressed with what they see.
Awesome. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll have that link in the description in case you guys want to find it and click on it and reach out to her. I want to thank all you guys who tuned in, who watched, listened. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, share. If you want to help and enjoy the work that we're doing, because we love it, you can help us directly with the CASHAPP, $THEE Empire Podcast. We also have PayPal, Venmo, other things like that. We have books, we have merch. So whatever you guys want to do to help contribute to get this work going, we appreciate you. And we love this work. And other than that, is there anything else, Connie, you want to say before we get out of here?
No, thanks for having me. And everybody go out and be the best version of you that you can be.
I like that. Catch you in the next one. Catch you next episode, every guys. Peace.
I say it's my duty. Yeah. Is it my will? Yeah. To do what? Yeah. To do is right. I say.
Let me fix this mic really quick. I think
Okay.
I think it's tilting down a little bit.
Okay.
Is it tilting a little bit?
No, it feels good to me.
It feels good?
I'm okay.
You're good? Oh.
Yeah.